So the next item on the agenda, we're moving into 11A, which is let me go through, was it page 99 on our agenda here? Which is the public safety discussion. And this is a discussion that was asked to be brought on the agenda by a variety of members of council, Councilmember Johnston and many others. And we just want to make sure we have a good discussion on how we can improve public safety and gather those best practices we can apply in our community. I know there's an active case out there of in the community that's questioning some practices that's involved our police, and I don't think it's appropriate to comment much on that. Given there's an active investigation, but we can find ways to move forward and see how we can be a better community and be better stewards to support our police. I see all of us here at the dais as supporters of our police, but how can we make that better? So with that, let's open up the discussion here. And I don't see anybody asked to speak. There we go. Councilmember Pulowski.
Well, I look at this as, number one, because of COVID, and since I have been gone for 13 years off council, do we still have an actual committee that works with safety with the police department?
City Manager Martinez or Chief, either?
The chief just commented we do not have that currently.
Okay.
We do not have that. I would think that might be a really good beginning for us to start putting something like that together, because maybe a broad spectrum of brains could sit down and spell out maybe what are important steps to take whenever there are situations that, just like the fentanyl case, who'd ever sit down and dream up something like that? It's just like there's such bizarre things can happen. But I just really think that it would be great to have some type of a committee to sit down and work through some of these things, to talk about steps that people maybe should follow, or the police officers or whoever's involved in safety, to try to bring some common sense, I call it, because the one thing I don't want out there at all is that our city, everybody come here and steal all you want, do whatever you want, because Brighton won't do anything about it. I do not want that out there, so I just wanted to say that. And that's why I'm hoping that maybe we could do something with a committee that might maybe calm the waters a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next, Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to first thank our City Manager, Michael Martinez, and our Mayor Mills, Mayor Pro Tem Cushing, for making sure this was just put on the agenda. As I have said previously publicly, the need for a public safety committee came to our attention in need. And the reason is not only did our police department, with recent incidents that have occurred, the police brass acted correctly with the policies that were in place. An officer was terminated because of their actions. We have the best police department in the metro area, and that's not as known as it needs to be. What I just witnessed within the last 20 minutes, and the appreciation that was shown for some of the pieces of that department, that's just a piece of the reality of what we face every day. For some reason, a lot of criminals have come towards Brighton, been in Brighton, and even worse for East Brighton and my ward, all of the incidences that we saw on camera started near or in that part of our city. It changes your perspective when you are there, hear, witness, see what has occurred, and know that not that our officers are doing something incorrect, but that there are these people in our neighborhoods sitting in their cars doing drugs, sitting in their cars passed out to start a lot of this. Not only that, but we also, like Council Member Pulowski is saying, we need to ask about societally, what are we doing? Are we saying to any criminal that you can come to our communities, you can do what you want, and you are going to get away with it if you leave? If a chase occurs at all, we're going to walk away? We don't want to say that because we don't want that to occur. The big problems that have happened and the tragedies that have happened, we can start to end them today. I've said last Thursday we had a great vision session with all of council, and one of my main things I wanted to do was make a public safety committee. I appreciate the media being here. Good media helps us to find issues and solve them. You have a group of people sitting right here, right now, representing the city at a higher level than I've ever seen since I moved to Brighton, and we're willing and open to figure out what we need to do with a committee to make sure that the public is involved, that the city staff is involved, that police are involved, and council, and that they all have a voice and a way to say, this incident has occurred. Now, first, we need to make sure that that is open, and we're open about those things. We need to improve what we do with our core process, I have learned, and make sure that we're not blocking media or normal residents from being able to access the things that we have created. One of my first, I believe it was my first social media post, was about body cameras on police officers and how important that was. We've been ahead of the curve on that and have funded our department at the fullest length at our fullest ability to make sure that they didn't just have body cameras, but the ability to use them the way that we get to see what's happening on those streets. Now, that is a two-edged sword sometimes, I understand that. But when I said that I want to do that, it was to show that our police department was acting the way that they do, which is beyond professional. It's with care for the community. And so I would like to head towards the very near future. I think the best thing that we can do moving forward is sit down and go, what does this committee consist of? And create this committee so that when these things occur, we can have that committee look at these things and bring these to council. And if it legally has to, because our city attorney says it's best practice to go into executive session to view those things and then come out and make decisions, that's fine. As long as we're able to have everyone's voice involved and make sure that we're not taking away the ability from our city manager and our police chief to be able to create and use the policies that are already best practice. I've gone through these policies again and again. I've watched every minute of all of those videos. It did scar my wife and I in certain ways. My wife has sadly seen death too much in her job. I luckily have not. However, watching that occur and seeing what the police officers have to deal with every day, my father was a fire chief, and he rose through the ranks. I knew that he had, he's open about the mental health problems that he's had since witnessing those things, and just seeing it at the video level, it's hard to remove from your mind, watching those people lose their lives. But let's always remember who took those lives. It wasn't a police officer, even the one that was terminated. It was the person that was a criminal with a warrant that decided to take those lives. It was a decision made by that particular person. And while we need to improve, definitely, there's always improvement that needs to happen in every organizational entity that occurs through government. But we need to make sure we keep the onus, the actual problem, on the people that are doing them and not let them get away with it. So I'm hopeful that we can move forward and we can make sure that we do have a public safety committee going forward. And once again, I do thank the media for shining light on this, because we were not made aware of this at the way we needed to be made aware of this, but that's not an individual's fault or department's fault. That is a long-term thing that we're working on as a city. So I'm hopeful that we can go forward from here. But I'm really proud of the council, the police chief, and our city manager, city attorney for taking it to this level where here we sit today. Thanks.
Thank you. Then Councilmember Padilla.
Thank you very much. I think the first and foremost obligation, and something that I take pride in saying, is that we have, as Councilman Johnston just pointed out, an extremely professional police department. They're very capable. They are dealing with a growing city, and increases in population are always accompanied by increases of all of the kinds of people, good people and bad people, and people who do good things and people who do bad things. That's not surprising to us. The policies of the department are complex. There is a lot to know on how to police, and the policies that have been set have been by this department come from industry experts, come from best practices, and are mature policies and practices. I appreciate the efforts, I appreciate the work, and as much as we hear about the things that go wrong, tonight was a tremendous example of the things that go right, that our police department does very, very effectively. I'm always cautious when political entities like a council, a city council, make determinations or have a belief that they might be able to set those policies more effectively than the professionals do. And I would caution us, and my action would be to make sure that our police department functions with the proper level of autonomy and independence from a political entity like the city council. We set strategy, we set guidance, we set budget, and what we do regarding the police department is we do have a generous budget for the purpose of providing the best possible public safety to this community. I would hesitate very much to step as amateurs in the way of that professional activity. We are, however, as City Council and as people who are looked to in the community, in the know. We have more information than is necessarily available to the public, and that's for a variety of reasons. Open cases are not necessarily about guilty people. They have not yet been found guilty. They are accused, they are witnessed in doing something, but there's a reason that we have a whole set of practices for innocence until proven guilty. What we are informed about is those things that are out of the ordinary. If there's extraordinary action, if there is an extraordinary case, if there is a chase, a tragedy, an accident, we're informed as the City Council so that when people in our wards ask us what's going on, we have some information that is shareable with the public. We know what's coming. That communication comes from the leadership at the police department, and it comes from the leadership at the city. I receive a memo every week, and I receive a memo when something out of the ordinary is happening, so I know what has happened. We also, as council, receive privileged information that is not shareable with the public, because once you get farther, there may be lawsuits, there may be settlements, there may be legal discussions that, for a variety of reasons, can't be public. As much as we want to be able to shine the light on everything that is happening, it's not possible, it's not permissible, it's not legal. So we do have privileged meetings in executive session that are not open to the public, where our city attorney keeps us informed on what's happening on this kind of cases. So I know that we have that information. In fact, I found the reports on each of the 3 incidents that we were talking about, so we knew that there was some action, there was something that took place. We knew that there was something out of the ordinary, and then we've learned since things that happened. We also, as a city, have a set of swim lanes, guidelines, responsibilities. As the City Council, we have the ability to speak on behalf of the people who represented us. We have the ability to speak on people in the community who have an opinion that they want to have heard. We don't, as a matter of fact, have the ability to speak on behalf of the police department. They have a professional for that purpose. We don't speak on behalf of the city, which has a department and that purpose. As a city council, even, I can't go out and speak on behalf of the city council, because the city council only does that by making a resolution. As you witnessed 4,000 of them tonight, possibly, we have an action by which we communicate with the public as the city council. So I'm very supportive of public safety as a committee discussion. I would really hesitate to call that a brand new idea that just came up in the last week, because I'm aware of conversations specifically around that in context of committees and commissions and boards that the City Council needs to have and represent and have engagement in the community. So I'm aware of conversations around Public Safety Committee dating into last year before I was elected to this group. And then a couple of weeks ago at our strategic planning session, we went into it very purposefully. But I would say that our Public Safety Committee is also, as a group of volunteers, a group of interested people, whatever the makeup of that may be, is an advisory or a discussion committee. It's not a policing or supervisory committee. So I want to be very cautious about setting the scope of what that committee is. We're not looking at an audit committee of amateurs from the community for the police department. We're looking at means of supporting public safety in the community. And I know that the accidents and the tragedies associated are on people's minds, but much more on my mind is the victim advocacy group that was here tonight and the need to include mental health professionals in first responder opportunities. So it's the importance of the full picture of public safety in the community that I would like that group to be aware of. And I know it's on the agenda and it's coming up in a study session to look at what is the makeup, what are the people who should participate in this, what is the charter associated with it. So we can look at public education, we can look at engaging community resources and support, we can look at victims advocacy, we can look at technology and space needs for our police department. As the city has grown, the thing that I think of as the brand new police department building is greater than 20 years old and serves a city of a population from a generation ago. We need to be fully aware of all of those things and not treat a public safety committee as a knee-jerk reaction to something that is popular or receiving attention today, but as part of the mature, ongoing process that we've already had in the community, and not accelerate or add a political influence to something that is already important to us as a city. So again, I'll simply come back to the statement of support. We have an excellent police department. We have mature policies. We have a good relationship and communication line with this part of the organization. Let us be cognizant of that and careful with that as we proceed with the plans that are in flight, taking into account whatever is happening around us at the moment, but not as an immediate reaction, as a planned and proactive action in flight. Thank you.
Thank you. Then Councilmember Pollock.
Well, I think some of you know that I've been part of the judicial system for 40 years, longer than some of you are old. There isn't enough money in the world right now to convince me to be a police officer. What a hell of a job it turned out to be. Yeah, they tried. When you have your legislators changing things around and saying, oh, let them go, let them go. We want them to take care of public safety. We want them to take care of us. But boy, we can't wait to jump on them. You know what? They're human beings. They're doing the best they can. You know, have any of you chased a fugitive, had to go after a bad guy? The adrenaline goes through the roof. I've done it. You can't just say, well, we're setting a policy. Yeah, you set a policy. But things happen because we're humans. It don't just fall into place. We can't do this and we can't do this and we need to do this. It doesn't work that way. That isn't even life. Where do we come up with that? That's not life. And yes, it's sad that these accidents happen. The officer was trying to do his job, which is protect the public. And the accident happened. And it wasn't caused by him because it just happened. Those things just snowball. We're all human. I am so tired of saying, well, the officer shouldn't have done this. Well, he should have done this. You know, quit changing the damn rules on them. Quit changing the law. You want them to comply with the rule of law? What is it today? Somebody can come in your house and rob you, and they have to just sit back and say, that's okay, that's only a misdemeanor. Yeah, well, you worked your butt off to buy that thing that they consider a misdemeanor. And we depend on them, public safety. That's what it's all about. Because without them, we're in really deep trouble. And if y'all haven't seen that, then you got your eyes closed. You can have all the committees you want. Things are going to happen. Ask them. I know. I've been out there. Thank God they've been out there too. Because when the going gets really hot, I pick up the phone and say, can you please send me an officer? And even considering the job I do, they come out. Because they're also protecting me and the public. So I get really irate and a little upset when we start on our officers. Set all the policies you damn want. Waste all the time you want. It's not going to change a situation when it happens, because unless you've been in it, you don't know. Yes, innocent people die. Innocent people die every day. From people driving drunk. From fentanyl. Babies die. Things that we can't control. But they do their best to control it. We try to tie their hands and say, ooh, you're just bad people. You shouldn't have done that. That wasn't policy. Yeah, walk in my shoes a little while and tell me what the hell policy really is. You tell me. So, thank you. I love seeing you here. I love seeing you on the road. And I will always stand by public safety, because that's what they represent. Public safety, each and every one of you. And they don't care, because they will protect you. And so, quit looking for ways to come after them, because you ain't got me on your side. And I can get pretty ugly too, y'all know that. Nothing new. So, figure out another way to help. And maybe we can add some more officers. Maybe you can do that. Maybe we can add some more cars. Other things we can do. But quit harassing our officers. They have it bad enough as it is. They have to deal with the nutcases out there that, again, and I guarantee you, are promoted by your legislators. They promote crime. Pay attention. Pay attention. They're promoting it. And so the criminal, he's a pretty smart guy. He says, hell, I can get away with it. I can do that. I can go steal cars. I can go rob somebody. I can go shoplift. I can do whatever I can carry a gun. I can do whatever I want. They're not going to do nothing to me because they can't. And they're not going to put me in jail because they're closing them down. They close prisons down. Can you imagine? What a great example we've set. And we sit back and we elect them again. How would you like one of your children to be killed by one of those idiots out there, drinking, driving, worse, being around drugs? That child, they say that just even touching the fentanyl can kill you. You don't have to even be taking it. What's happening in this country? We as a city have to take care of our own. And that includes our police officers, especially. Okay, I'll get off my... Thank you.
Thank you. And then Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, this is just such a tragic story. My heart is broken for the victims, and I just want to say that because it's such a, I mean, obviously makes this very challenging because it's just such a horrible situation. But, obviously there was a news story. This story asked a number of things. It asked us what changes we've made. It doesn't mention that we hired our city manager a week after this incident occurred. We have a new city attorney. So there have been changes. It also acknowledges that we have a very good police chase policy in Brighton and that the officer is no longer with our department. The two other incidents that were lumped into this incident, the documents, I don't know if it really wasn't clear in the story, but the documents that they pointed out were from our own police department. And while the documents described that the pursuits were authorized, the faults that the news reported that were found by our own commanders. And so one takeaway of that is this isn't some big cover-up. It's our department being capable of being objective and able to find where we can improve. And that's good. I mean, we can always improve. One of these incidents involved an alleged auto theft at gunpoint. This isn't just a harmless property crime. I'm okay. I like the idea of a public safety committee. There's a lot of things that we can, a lot of things can help with that. We definitely want to reduce the need to pursue. I think everybody would agree with that. There's technology to accomplish that. I could see a public safety committee serving as a bridge to council to improve our public safety and our communication with council. Maybe some participants could help us think outside of the box. Because I think everybody here would love to know how we can improve our police department and what tools we can give them. Just today on Facebook, you see our police department talking about an alleged abduction of a 20-year-old. I think we would all expect our police to chase somebody who's being abducted. We definitely don't want to tie their hands. We definitely don't want to limit their ability to do their job. A lot of these decisions they don't have the luxury of spending a lot of time analyzing the situation like we are now, or like these reports are, before they make a decision. It's a quick decision. It's a tough job, and I don't know how they do it. It's a hard job, and again, I just want to leave with this is just tragic and heartbreaking, and we all we're all take it seriously that there was a loss of life, an innocent loss of life. We take that very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next, Councilmember Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would echo the sentiments of all here. I agree to the both sides of the discussion on a public safety committee. I see it more of a bridge between the residents and the police department, not really as a council bridge. I don't think we need it as a come to council because we don't make those decisions. This is a city staff thing, and I think the residents working together with the police department, I think the police department already does that. They do. We have these times where they get together with them and have the conversations, and we have the town halls, but I do understand the point on both sides, and I agree with Councilmember Johnston and Councilmember Padilla talked about it, and I think it's a good idea to talk about it and pursue it, but just look at the right avenue that we're going to go down the road, what road we're going to go down with it. I would also say that one thing I do disagree with Councilmember Johnston is I think that our police department is not only the best in the area, the metro area, I'd say the state of Colorado. I wasn't going to say much, but being a newly appointed member to the National League of Cities Public Safety and Crime Prevention Committee, I get to see firsthand best practices from around the nation. At our NLC just a few weeks back, I got to hear from different city leaders throughout the country, and when I look at those best practices and when they talk about it, our department, hands down, is not me ringing the phone. Probably somebody calling to tell me to be quiet. But, I see firsthand, and without a doubt, hands down, our police department is what cities dream of having. They are these two right here and all the other officers that were here earlier tonight are I don't want to use the term poster child, but the poster child of what a police department should be. Our Brighton Police Department is without a doubt the finest police department I have ever had the privilege of being in a community with. And, I come from a small town also in Florida that had a great police department. And I look at the two and I think not only does the police protect us as residents and our community, they're also in the community. And what our department does is hands down some of the finest work I've ever had the privilege of seeing and witnessing. And I thank you both and your entire department for everything you do. And I have the utmost confidence that you guys will continue doing your jobs, even though that you are sometimes handcuffed in a sense to perform those duties. And I agree with everybody here on council that we need to find ways to make sure our residents are safe. And I think what you're doing and the steps you're taking is outstanding. And I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Blackhurst.
I think everyone, all my peers here, and most of the public understand what position I come from. It was said that you can tell what a person stands on an issue by where they sit. And for 47 years, I was a police officer. So I think I've got a pretty good handle on and judging police departments and how they operate. I totally agree with my colleagues that the Brighton Police Department is an outstanding police department. They have some outstanding men and women who work there, but unfortunately, they have to hire humans. And humans make mistakes. And sometimes they even hire people that maybe shouldn't be police officers, but they didn't know it at the time they hired them. Fortunately, they take action to make sure those things don't get repeated, as they have in this situation. It's a very, very difficult job, and officers are placed in situations where they're made to make split-second decisions, and sometimes they make bad decisions, and they make mistakes. And the whole key to having a good police department is having an administration who is willing to look at those individual situations and judge them for what they are and seek outside advice when that's appropriate, like they did in this case, and then take appropriate action. And that's key to maintaining a good department. Public Safety Committee, my first reaction was, if this is an oversight committee, I'm not in favor of it. Having civilians try to make decisions for the administration doesn't make sense to me. If we have a problem in the police department administration, then we need to have new administrators. We don't need citizens. But anytime you have a police department in this day and age, the better communications, the more open communications you have with the public, the better. And if this could facilitate that, I'm all for it. If we have some citizens who can understand better how the police department operates, I almost am 100% certain that they would become advocates for the police department and would reach out and let the rest of the citizens understand what they learn from most perspectives. That's why they used to, I'm not sure they still do, but I think they still do have the Police Citizen Academy in which citizens can be taught, the same kinds of lessons that the police officers themselves learn. So I'm very proud of the police department. Like I said, do I think they're perfect? No, I know they're not perfect. And the men and women who work there aren't perfect. But I know they all strive to do better and to correct mistakes and to improve their training. And I'm very proud of them. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Tadeo.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with most of everything that was said, so I'm not going to reiterate too terribly much. But I am also not convinced that a Public Safety Committee is an appropriate response for what has happened. I'm also open-minded to hearing more about it. What would it entail? Like Councilman Blackhurst said, what specifically would that entail? But I agree. I think we have good policies. We know that there's good policies. There are human beings that are police officers that, like has been said, make mistakes. You don't always know how you're going to react in a situation until you're put into that position. And I think that our officers are the best that there are and make the best decisions for something happening at that time. And that's what's important. I grew up a cop's kid, and I think that there are those officers that are there for the right reasons, and there are officers that are officers for not the right reasons, in my opinion. And I think we have the best of the best. And yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, and it is very, very unfortunate that the officers today do feel like that their hands are tied with some things that are going on and not able to do their jobs. It's very unfortunate. I think that's something we need to focus on, extremely focus on that particular issue. But that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, Councilmember Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quickly, I'm so proud of our council for what I just heard from all of you. I wanted to do this today, and I'm happy that we just did, just to be able to voice how we feel about not just the incidents that occurred, but what we can do from here. So in the past, after something like this has happened, I've had to ask the question, do we need to take a vote? And there was a question about it to see where this heads. With our new city manager and new city attorney, I don't think we have to ask that. What I believe we just heard is that we are very interested in starting a public safety committee as a whole, as a majority, but we don't want it to be an oversight committee. I couldn't agree more with those comments. We are the oversight committee for every department in the city. So what needs to happen, in my opinion, is we need to look at the other cities that do have a public safety committee, see what they do right, what they do wrong. Then the number one thing we need to do in our next study session, here's my ask, if you will, to our city manager and to our mayor as you set the agendas, is I want to hear from our police officers what they think about this, because that's what needs to really weigh on our minds more than anything, other than what the residents feel. And I have gotten amazing feedback from residents since these stories have came out that we thought would turn this into something negative. It's turned into something positive. People saying, I want to be part of this committee. I want to look into committees and what they do in other cities. And the emails, the Facebook messages, things that I've gotten, it's been positive. So what I think we should do from here is put this on an upcoming study session, hopefully very soon, and we can go over this with our police department and figure out what this looks like and what this is. While I agreed and disagreed with some things said, I agree with the overall tone of what was just done, and I know our residents do. I appreciate that we're having this discussion. Thank you all very, very much. Most importantly, thank you to our police officers for doing that job. My brother-in-law just became a police officer, just graduated from the academy. And the stories he tells me now from what I thought would be policing, very stark differences. So I can't tell you how much we appreciate what you do. Thanks.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing, it's time to get on a future study session working with the PD, city manager's office, and even our city attorney to see what a public safety committee would look like, look at best practices, present to us at a soon-to-be future study session. I don't know if next week's too soon or 3 weeks from now, but I'd love to get in front of us and present to us what we could do to make that reality in our city. City manager, could we do that?
Absolutely. We kind of had a head start on this, knowing that this discussion was coming tonight. So we've begun to do our homework. I don't think that we're ready for the next study session. I think we still have a little bit of work to do, but you'll have this in front of you at a future study session for further discussion. And I appreciate the discussion tonight. Thank you.
And if we can't do it next week, then the one after that would be, and I looked ahead, it looked like we had some room at the fourth week, so I would appreciate that. Our police officers do a fine job, and like what was said here earlier tonight, some mistakes happen. Maybe they're mistakes because of policy set in Denver, or they're mistakes because we're human, but things happen. I really appreciate the officers that are out there. I really appreciated my time at the Citizen Police Academy I put in back in 2017. That was a great experience. I encourage everyone to. Chief, are we doing that this year? I hope we are. Thank you. We need to get that back. We need to get that that opportunity for our residents to see what you go through. And if anybody's going to ever be on that public safety committee, maybe they need to serve on that or do a ride-along or something and see what your officers go through regularly. I want to see Mary Ellen on that car. She's been with Dog long enough here. All right. So anyway, I appreciate the discussion. Did you have something? Okay. Well, before we move on to the main meat of our agenda, I'm just going to go call for a break now because I think we need a reset. And so we'll reconvene. What time is it? 7:30.